So, stopping beating around the bush, Echoes of Home, Entry 38 by Tsu'na, Hat. Yesterday was my shift bouncing at the pit after our demonstration for Sam. I sometimes see him looking at us when we are not facing him, either in the side of my sight or in the mirror behind the bar. He tries to ask questions sometimes. Husband's answer is often classified, which he says is the word the government uses to describe something they do not want to talk about. He does not say whether we are with the government. He is careful to not say too much of anything. In one of the earlier talks we had about living in this world, he said to me, "I forbid you to talk about anything specifically related to Eorzea." I did not like the idea of him forbidding me to do anything, but then he said, "Now please repeat that back to me." This did not make any sense, but I decided to play along. "I forbid you to talk about anything specifically related to Eorzea." Cool. Now we can both truthfully say that we're forbidden to talk about where we come from or how we got our abilities here. I do not understand why he finds some things funny or why he sometimes seems concerned about saying true things. He once told me of something a scholar said: "If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything." Perhaps he is concerned we will forget the stories we tell if we tell too many. Different people we meet are curious about different things. Mrs. Hartman asked me if I was pregnant because she had not seen certain things in the trash. When I said I did not think so, she asked what kind of birth control I use. I did not know what birth control was, but the way she asked it made me think it had to do with my body, so I told her that was something I talk about with my husband. She seemed to accept that and did not ask me more. Excuse me, I dry out sometimes when I read aloud. Googling birth control, along with other words she used, such as pads and tampons, gave me a lot of information about how Earth people make more Earth people, and how Earth women get pregnant from sex, and how Earth women, if they are not pregnant, have a menstrual cycle that involves pain and bleeding. This menstrual cycle has never happened to me, and I do not remember women in Eorzea talking about it happening to them. If it happened to many women, even if it only happened to her, I think I would have heard. So perhaps this only happens to Earth women. But I am different from how I was in Eorzea. I do not know if I am now an Earth woman. I think husband does not know either. I think I now know why he has been waiting to have sex, that he is waiting to see if I have a menstrual cycle, because if I do, it may mean I can become pregnant and have a baby. I found links to videos about having babies. There is blood, there is screaming. I do not think I want to have a baby. Yet many Earth women seem to have babies even with the blood and the screaming. I do not know if husband wants a baby. I do not know if he wants me to have one. That he has waited to have sex may mean he does not want that. If this is what having sex may mean, I will wait with him for a while. Sam looks like he has questions that he does not ask. He called us weird yesterday. He did not understand why I have a book with an elaborate metal cover. I think summoners are not common in this world. Nor have I seen other weapons that relate to classes in Eorzea, though pewterless weapons can be concealed. I have only seen what appear to be small guns that people wear on belts at their waist, though I do not also see ethereal transformers, so perhaps they are not guns. Sam has not asked me many questions. He mostly asks husband, or husband answers when he is around, and Sam asks both of us. I know I need to be able to answer questions, but I do not always know all of husband's stories. I am finding new ways to say classified or forbidden, or sometimes personal. Husband has come to the pit on nights that it has been my shift. He has not interfered with me doing the job, just as I have not interfered on his nights. We need to each show that we are capable of the job so that the customers will know that we will step in when we need to. We have so far not needed to step in more than once in a given evening. After that, the customers seem to remember we are there. Last night's incident was brief but perhaps important. Husband had gone to the men's room. A fight between two men was getting started at a pool table. I got up from my stool and went to break it up. They were starting to grapple and punch. I grabbed a shirt in each hand and thrust them apart. The one at my left hand was still trying to fight, but punched me instead of the other man. All the noise in the room stopped. The left-hand man's eyes opened wide and he stood very still. The punch had hurt a little, but only slightly annoyed me. I turned to the man and quietly said, "It is time for you to leave." When he did not move, I added, "Now." He nodded nervously. I let him go. He backed away and hurried out the door. I turned to return to the bar. I heard someone say behind me, "Uh, ma'am?" I turned back. A bald man with a beard was holding my beret. "You dropped your hat." The left-hand man must have knocked it off with his punch. I accepted the beret, nodded to him, and went back to my stool. It stayed quiet for a few moments, and I heard the murmur of the customers talking among themselves. As good as my hearing is, I could not make out any of the words until there were a few occurrences of the word ears. You dropped your hat. I looked up from the book I was reading and saw in the mirror people either looking my way or talking to each other, or both. I glanced at Sam. He was watching me while polishing a glass. I took my beret off and set it on the bar. He met my eyes for a moment before looking down at the beer tap. Husband returned from the men's room. I saw in the mirror that he looked at the hat on the bar, looked at me, then took the stool beside me. He picked up the beret and put it on. He did not ask any questions. Neither did Sam. I think he wanted to. Yeah, sorry for the cough drop. I do dry out sometimes when I read. Very well written. Thank you. Now let's try a different perspective for you. Entry 39 by Steve. Ears. We'd never used paint in Eorzea. Dye, yes, for clothing and armor, but never paint. Olda was all sandstone, Limsa was all coral, Gridania was all trees, Ishgard was all prissy cut stone, and so on. So we didn't have a recipe for something convenient to paint the shed with. So some pretzel money went toward the bus and pie money covered paint. We went with barn red, simple and classic. I probably should have painted the panels before putting them up, but painting standing up worked too. More zen for more thinking. We've been doing camping Saturday nights, and Sunday's kind of a dead time at the diner, but I thought maybe we could stick around and find out what the fallout was from the hat thing. Ordinarily, a headpiece wouldn't fall off so easily. Had it been properly equipped, the guy could have hit her with a 2x4 and it still would have stayed on. But the man in beret is battlecaster gear, and we've been wearing monk gear since coming here. The caster gear is a bit too flashy to pass off as casual wear, and a monk can't equip the beret. We couldn't even glamour it to a monk headpiece, assuming we actually had glamour crystals. So, rather than equipment, Tsu'na simply used the beret as a hat, perched on her head and covering her ears. Where it stayed for the most part until that asshole punched her. She hasn't told me who the asshole in question was. I might have indicated a predisposition toward a generally or husbandly sense of obligation to inflict physical harm on him. She said she can handle it, which we both know is true. Deciding not to wear it after had come off surprised me a bit. She said she was tired of hiding herself, especially since I'd been quietly spreading the convention/fangirl story. I suppose as long as the cat's out of the bag he had, I can understand it. The question is how understanding everyone else will be. Which, I assumed, was why Sam came out with the cider and sat on the bench. I kept painting for a while. You source your own lumber. You source your own paint, too? Hardware store down 51. I could have chipped in. It's my shed. You weren't using it. We're the ones who want to. Besides, rent, remember? Sam nodded absently. He looked around. Your wife here? She's at the library. Didn't know it was open on Sunday. We asked nice, made an arrangement, offered to vacuum and stuff. Of course you did. I finished the board I was working on. We needed to seal the cracks and weatherproof it and all, though we also needed to think about ventilation, but that can come when we work on the roof. I closed the paint, put the brush in a bucket to soak, and sat down next to Sam. I opened the cider and took a pull. We gazed out at the yard. This about the years? Maybe. Thought I told people about them. Ain't the same as seeing them. Okay, well, now you've seen them. What do you think? They look real. Cosmetic surgery. For what she paid for them, they better look real. What about her real ears? Under her hair? No, those are her real ears now. But, I mean, you say cat ears, I think of those things kids wear, pointing on top. Nobody's going to pay to get those permanently put on their head. At least I hope not. What happens if I pull them? One of us breaks your arm. No, seriously. No, seriously. She had that kind of crap happen at conventions back before she had any martial arts training, and after enough of it, she had kind of a breakdown. You think either of us are going to put up with it now? I ain't going to pull them, okay? Just wondering if someone pulls them hard enough, will they come off? If I pull your ears hard enough, will they come off? If I pull your dick hard enough, will it come off? Jesus, chill out, will you? Well, I don't really like where these questions are going, that's all. You're married, right? Yeah. Are your wife's boobs real? What happens if I pull them? I'd try to break your arm. Sam met my gaze for a moment before turning away with a grimace. Yeah, okay. Sorry. I'd been rehearsing this in my head in some form or another ever since we arrived. Give it a beat, then sigh. No, look, I'm sorry. It's just, I wasn't there when it happened. We met in the field, but to hear her tell it, you've got this teenager, first year college, family's got enough money to be stupid, and she's really into fantasy fiction and games and stuff. So she plays the game with a cat girl and gets so into it, she wants to be one. Parents indulge her, find someone who'll do anything for enough money, and she gets altered. Hurts all to hell, but she's happy. She's having fun. She's living the dream. She's just a kid. So she decides to show off. She goes to a convention where they've got other people dressing up as stuff for fun. She doesn't know. A lot of people don't know. Just Google convention groping and you'll get lots of hits, but she doesn't know. She's just having fun. She's going to a convention and saying, hey, look at me. And they look, and they approach, and they crowd, and they touch. They want to touch her ears. They want to pull her tail. Tail. Thought I mentioned the tail. Thought you were a kid. It's why she wears the coat all the time. Anyway, she's got these perfect strangers, most of them weird fat guys, but not always wanting to touch her. She got out of the crowds, but even just wandering around, she'd get touched. Feel people's hands on her, and it wasn't fun. She had her dream, and people were making it a nightmare. I rubbed my face with my hands, got pain on my cheeks, but it just added to the effect. She was so freaked out by it. Told me she just went home and hid in her room for days, didn't go to classes, didn't want to talk to anyone. Her parents were kind of useless about it. You wanted us to spend all that money on this, and this is what you get. Pricks. So she kind of started lashing out, taking fighting classes. Turns out she was good at it. Good enough that after enough training, she got recruited by a government contractor. Got into the field, and that's where she met me. And we got along okay because I didn't try to touch her. I mean, anyone who did got their ass kicked, but it wasn't that. I just wanted to respect her space. I looked at Sam. And I need other people to respect her space too. We sort of know you people. It was bad enough when strangers were trying to grab her. She doesn't need it happening here with people she knows. I tried to bore into Sam with a glare. I do not want her going through that again. If she doesn't kick the shit out of anyone who tries touching her without her permission, rest assured that I will. Sam nodded slowly, meeting my eyes. Okay. Yeah, I get it. I guess I can't imagine what that was like. I'll tell folks to back off, okay? I let the tension bleed out of me. I sat back, drained my cider, and let my head rest on the back of the bench. I'd appreciate that. Thanks. If her folks had all that money, why didn't they just get her ear fixed back? They didn't want to spend more on her screw up. She didn't ask, and after she got good at fighting, she got stubborn. This is me, and I'm not the problem here. That sort of thing. Okay. But if she's so rich, how come you're working for beer? They didn't want anything to do with her after she went off fighting. She wasn't their precious little angel anymore. Did I mention their pricks? You might have mentioned that. So it's just her and me. We're doing what we can. Sam nodded. His eyes wandered as he absorbed all I'd said. You should be okay here. These are good folks. Just don't freak them out. Don't freak my wife out and we'll all get along fine. Sure. He stood up, stretched, and looked at the shed. Y'all need any more paint or anything, let me know. Thanks. I waited until he'd headed into the pit before quietly asking, what did you think of the story, my love? I thought you told it well. Tsu'na faded into view next to me on the bench, a vision in her stark black ninja gear before she shifted to Earth normal. Believable? I felt sorry for me. I smiled. Still, you might want to wear the beret for a while yet. You want me to put a lid on things? That was bad, my love. I am not a precious little angel, remember? Excuse me while I shift position a bit. Very good. Thank you. A lot of my pieces are on the short side. I think my longest is like 2,500. Um, People on our writing Discord say that proper chapter length is something like 3,000, and I'm just not there. Some of my pieces are less than 1,000 words. One piece is 4. Anyway, entry 40 by Tsu'na. Eyes. Everyone wants to see my ears. I did not understand at first. I felt more people than usual looking at me, but I did not really understand the cause. Then I went to May's store to buy butter, and May asked, sorry if this is weird, but can I see? See, your ears. I heard they were special. It seems she had heard about the fight at the bar. Perhaps she has a husband who goes there. I took off my beret. Her eyes got wide. She blinked as she studied my head. Then her hand reached up. Please do not touch my ears. Her hand did not withdraw. Sorry, I just. Please do not touch my ears. Okay, but they're just so. Do not touch my ears! She jumped back a bit and froze. She said, I'm sorry, in a small voice. I took the butter and left. I went to the library to find out how paint was made. The paint we are using on the shed looks useful. Once we find pigments, we may be able to make our own. The store we got the paint from had cans of latex paint, which sounds easy to make. The librarian, Mrs. Hobbs, looked at me as I came in but did not speak. I spent some time on a computer finding articles about making different kinds of paint. I had found an article about something called flower paint when I heard a high-pitched voice behind me say, Hey, is that the cat lady? I turned and saw a small girl holding a woman's hand and pointing at me. Are you the cat lady? Can I see your ears? The girl was being loud and rude in a library, and neither the woman with her nor the librarian did anything. They were both looking at me. I thought they perhaps wanted to see my ears too. I did not understand. Did they think the girl's behavior was acceptable? I decided this was something I would need to get used to. I took off the beret. The little girl made a noise and ran at me with her hands raised. I stood up from the chair. Can I touch them? No, they are my ears. Oh, but they're so long and pretty. I looked at the women and still saw no support. I did not want to yell at the girl as I had with May. I turned and closed my browser window, then put on my beret and left the library. The little girl was making whiny noises as I walked out. I went to the pit where husband was painting the shed. I asked for his phone and used it to Google the term he had used the day before, convention groping. There were indeed articles about it. It is a thing that happens. People, especially women who go to the conventions in costumes, are often touched, felt, groped, pulled on, and stalked. There were even stories of abductions. Not only was husband's story plausible, I was actually seeing it happen here. I stayed and helped with the painting. Some people from the pit came to watch. Before yesterday, some would come out to see what we were doing, but they usually lost interest and left. These people did not leave. These people stared. I moved to work on the far side of the shed. They did not follow, but it was a while before they left. I did not feel like talking during dinner. Husband talked about things, about crafting, about television shows, about news he had heard. I nodded and tried to be polite. Perhaps I should have told him then about May and the little girl. I was trying not to think about it. I was trying not to think that the people in the town were like the problem people at conventions, but I was unusual for them. I did not feel unusual, but they were suddenly not seeing me as a person as much as a shape. We went to the diner and started our shift. Husband was working the counter last night. I went and filled the mop bucket and wheeled it out into the dining area. The dining area was more crowded than it had been during our shift. Everyone was staring at me. I have faced ships full of pirates and Sahagin. I have faced armies of Garleans. I have faced beasts and bandits and dragons. I have faced monsters and machines bigger than houses. I could not face those eyes. I dropped the mop and ran home. The Hartmans were there, not quite settled in for the evening. I went to our room and got into bed and pulled the blanket up. Someone knocked on the door. I did not answer. Husband got there a short time after me. He got into bed and held me. I said we would not make much money if he was not at the diner. He said nothing was worth more than me. We did not talk about what happened. He simply held me. I tried to understand why I was afraid. They were just people. They were just looking. But no one had ever looked at me like that in Eorzea. Perhaps it was the idea that this is what it will be like in this earth. That if I show my ears and tail, I will be looked at by a whole world of people. But that was thinking logically. My fear at the diner was not logical. It was simply fear. I relaxed in time. The diner still needed cleaning, so since it was empty, husband and I went back and did it together. Afterward, back in bed, he told me how a classic scene in scary videos is a pack of wolves all staring at someone. It did not take snarling or growling or teeth to be scary, just all of the focused eyes. Perhaps that was what I ran away from, though had it been wolves, I would have fought them off. I am typing this at the library. Today, Mrs. Hobbs did not stare at me. There were some children with a woman reading a story to them. The children stared at me until the woman got their attention again. She did not stare at me. I cannot decide if it feels more odd to be looked at or to not be looked at. Interesting topic. Attention spans are decreasing, so writers have to adapt. That's for the short chapter thing? Maybe. I wasn't thinking in those terms. It was just, these are thoughts by people. These are daily thoughts about things that happen. So they're coming in bursts. Maybe a different book, a different format, a different setting. I would write longer chapters. I only have one other sizable, I guess you can call it a work in progress that has chapters. The audience you want to write for. You expect short attention span from young adults? I suppose. I mean, people talk about people thinking in terms of sound bites these days, tweets and stuff. I like to think that that's an exaggeration, but I'm naive. I'm probably old and out of touch. I can feel my throat closing up. It's annoying. And this was just the first three. It does get overstated, but there is some truth to it. Yeah. Short attention span theater. That was the name of a webcomic. Entry 41 by Steve Vet. If I'm not careful, the town's going to be afraid of me. Possibly both of us. I got started at the diner last night, taking orders, cleaning the counter when Tsu'na came in. I heard her wheeling out the bucket, then everything got quiet. I looked up and saw her staring at everyone staring at her. And she just ran out. I've seen her run from things, but only in a practical sense, never from people staring at her. I mean, maybe no one's ever stared at her like that before, so maybe she's never had reason. At any rate, it ticked me off. These people looked at her like some sort of sideshow. Of course it was upsetting for her. And that was upsetting for me. I slammed my hand down on the counter before I got a hold of myself. I'm glad I didn't break the counter. I haven't a clue how to make Formica. I hadn't turned the music on, so it was dead silent after that. After I got my breathing steady, I said, closing early. 5 minutes. But I just got here. I didn't order it yet. Can I finish eating first? Yeah, well, my wife just ran out of here crying because y'all were creepy at her, so I gotta go home and deal with that. Take it to go. No one said anything after that, including me. I couldn't manage "Thank you, come again" even once as I wrapped pretzels in pies and napkins and handed them out. I didn't think she was actually crying, and perhaps I shouldn't have planned perhaps I should have planned with her whether to ever paint that picture in people's heads, but I didn't want these people walking out guilt free. I think a couple of them wanted to whine something like, "What did I do?" But none of them did. I shut the place down and locked up. When I got to the house, the Hartmans were sort of fussing outside the guest room door. I told them what happened. Mrs. Hartman was sympathetic, while Mr. Hartman just looked grim. I like to think they expected better of their fellow townsfolk. I went in, joined Tsu'na in bed, and held her for a while. I could tell from her breathing that she wasn't asleep, but she wasn't talking either. If being held was what she needed, I was only too happy to provide. I made omelets in the morning. I kind of expected her to stay home, but she put on the beret and headed out to face the town again. I went to work on the shed. I wanted to tag along with her, but I didn't want to suggest she couldn't handle things on her own. Got some gawkers at the shed. Guessing guys wanting to see the cat girl. They didn't stay long when they saw I was alone. They all cleared out by lunchtime when Sam came out with bottles. Heard about the diner. Yeah. She okay? Think so, yeah. We sat on the bench. We drank. We ruminated. Small town, you know. I've really only ever heard stories. Don't believe the flying saucer ones. What about the witchcraft ones? That's more Nebraska. Huh. The air was mostly still. Beginning of September, summer starting to wind down a little, at least according to the Weather Channel. Might have found you a wiring guy. Don't know him. Dave says he's good. Dave? Works at the post office. Can this guy do breaker boxes? Don't want to blow your fuses with a window AC. I'll ask. You see this stuff on TV. A couple guys on a bench drinking, trying to find something to say. Especially when one of them has something to say. So, you meet Eddie? Sorry, I have to ban a spammer. Spanner banned. Don't know. Which one's he? Wears a cat hat all the time? Cat hat? Yeah, a hat that says cat on it. Oh, like those mini dozers. Yeah. Anyway, he's a vet. Army? No, like an animal doctor. Does stuff for the ranches. Sorry, a vet that wears a cat hat? He thinks he's funny. Sure. What about him? He, Sam scratched his jaw, let his eyes wander over the yard. Kinda wants to see your wife's ears. So does half the town, I think. Yeah, he doesn't think they're real. What do you mean? Something about the ear canals and stuff. And he's saying this without having seen them. Yeah, well, he wants to see him. And by see, he means what? Look at, touch, poke around in? What would it take for him to know they're real? Sam fidgeted. Don't know. My wife lost her shit when people just stared at her. Why the fuck would I let some animal doctor poke around in her ears? To see if they're really real? Of course they're real. They're attached to her head. She hears with them. How real do they have to be? He was looking increasingly uncomfortable. Eddie says you can't do that with plastic surgery. Well, maybe he can't. That's why nobody's going to pay a fuck ton of money to an animal doctor from, no offense, here to give it a try. You saw it happen? No, she got the work done before I met her. Why? He shrugged and studied his bottle. I'm sorry. Are you accusing my wife of lying to me? He made himself look at me. At the guy who'd said he was ex-military. At the guy who could pick up a man with one hand and throw him through a table. At the guy sitting a couple feet away from him holding a cider bottle. Suppose not. Is this Eddie going to be a problem? He stared at me. What do you mean? I realized as soon as I said it that it sounded like something from every TV show ever about murder and organized crime. I sighed, sagged a little, tried to look more tired and worried than menacing. I mean, she's had crap in the past, she's had crap yesterday, she doesn't need it anymore. Is this guy going to be bugging her in the bar or wherever? Some tension played out of Sam, too. I can talk to him. Thanks. I pressed my bottle against my forehead. She told me about how it was. I tried to imagine it, but it's not the same as seeing it happen right in front of me. I closed my eyes, gave it a beat, and looked at Sam. If this Eddie has any questions, have him come to me first, okay? Sure. I nodded. You're a good friend, Sam. I clinked bottles with him, like every TV show ever about guy chemistry. We sat a bit longer, finishing our drinks. Sam got up and stretched. Better get the bar open. In time for happy hour? He snorted. Yeah, all them business guys in suits that swarm the place every day. He stood there, but didn't quite turn away. He hesitated for a moment, then turned back to me. Can I ask you something? Tell me if it ain't my business. What? It's the way she calls you husband all the time. Ain't nothing wrong with it. It's just not something I hear much. Is it that one of those things like, you know, what? Master? I couldn't help but snicker. You think she's submissive? Ha! Try possessive. That started happening a little after the wedding. She grabs me. She's got this big grin on her face, and she's like, "Husband." I'm like, "Yes, my love." Husband. Yeah. Husband. What? You are my husband, mine and no others. And since I just gotten done promising exactly that in the wedding, I was like, okay. A rather wicked grin appeared on Sam's face. So it ain't that she's yours, it's yet you're hers. I mean, it's kind of the same thing, right? Keep telling yourself that, son. He grew a bit more sober. You take care of her. That's the plan. Just an overprotective husband. Not a threat. Just a guy. Just a guy who doesn't know what the town's saying about his wife. Brief checking statuses, taking a sip of water. Do you need an account for Wattpad? I think you can sign in with a Google ID if you have one. Some stuff doesn't need an account to see. Some stuff you have to set it so that you only get people with account holders to make comments on it. Really makes you want to read the rest. Well, let me make that easier for you. Just a moment. I can't begin to tell you how glad I am to have that reaction to my writing. Give that a try, see if you can see it. I should have put that up there. Unique concept. Thank you for saying so. It may get a little dogmatic at times, but it's my idea of magical realism. I didn't know magical realism was an industry term until a few months ago. Entry number 42 by Tsu'na, Leveling. I do not want to hide from people. I still do not understand why I ran that night. Husband mentioned something called stage fright, but I was not trying to perform for people. I did not want that feeling of being stared at, but I did not want to stay away from people. It would have been very easy to stay at home and read or craft or go far out in the field and gather. But I did not travel to Limsa because I wanted an easy life, and this was another form of challenge. I needed to level in people. Mrs. Hobbs did not seem to want to look at me in the library. I made that harder by talking with her. Hello, do you know of Tony Hillerman? She blinked and let her eyes meet mine. Oh, you like murder mysteries? My husband said he wrote Western stories. Well, they're set in New Mexico, but they're really more modern day police procedurals. Is that what you're looking for? I have been reading books by Zane Grey. Oh, that's not the same at all. Here, let me show you. We spent time in the Western section and the mystery section. We talked about the books, she more than I. It felt normal. It felt comfortable. I could feel others looking at me. I decided to not care. We settled on a book by Tony Hillerman and a book by Louis L'Amour, who I suspect is neither Ishgardian nor Makot. Mrs. Hobbs was relaxed with me once more. I was allowed to borrow the books without the card other people use. After that, I went to a computer to do research. Deer meat did not work as a substitute for antelope meat. If we were to use it, we would need a new recipe. Deer meat is called venison. There are many venison recipes, most of which are from some sort of stew. But I did find recipes for venison pie. I thought perhaps this would be something more we could sell at the diner, or at least have as a convenient meal. The simplest recipe involved ground venison. I did not know how to make ground venison, but I had seen ground beef at May's store. I went there from the library. May looked nervous. I did not think I had yelled that loudly at her, or perhaps no one else ever yelled at her. But straightforward had worked with Mrs. Hobbs. Hello, do you grind meat here? Uh, what? You sell ground beef. Do you grind it here? No, no, I don't. I just get that way. Do you know where I can get meat ground? Maybe the safe way down the highway, the meat department? I thanked her and left. She may be a bigger challenge. I took the bus to the Safeway. I went to the meat department. The man there said they do not grind other people's meat. He recommended a place further down the highway called Henderson's Block. Another short bus ride that used more money took me to Henderson's Block, a building with a large fenced area behind it. I went in and met a large bearded man with an apron. Afternoon, Matt. How can I help you? I need some meat ground. Can you do that for me? We talking whole carcass? There was a pile of white paper on the counter. I placed some venison cuts on it. 3 pounds of venison. Just 3 pounds? I can do that for $2 a pound. Where'd you get it? My husband and I hunt. He looked at the meat. This recent? 3 weeks ago. Can't be. That's out of season. Season? He looked at me oddly. You can only hunt during hunting season. The state that starts in October. I did not know that. Yeah, so I can't do anything with fresh venison because you can't have it, and you can't have it because I have to report you and stuff, and I don't think we want that. We do not want that. He studied me a moment, looked around the empty shop, then gathered up the meat on the paper. Hang on, gotta check on something. He disappeared into a back room. I could hear machinery running. He then returned with a paper wrapped bundle which he offered to me. Yeah, sorry I couldn't help you. I handed him money. I am sorry for wasting your time. No worries. Come back in season sometime. I will. Thank you. I think I am leveling in people. Most of the venison is in husband's inventory, otherwise I would have had it all ground. But there are also recipes for chopped cube venison, which I can probably do myself. It does not matter right away, since if we cannot have venison now, we cannot have venison pies to sell now. Husband was a little embarrassed about it when I met him at the diner for dinner. Crap. Forgot about hunting season. He said October? That's in 3 weeks, so we'll be fine after that. Just don't talk about us hunting until then. Why are there hunting seasons? Mostly to keep people from killing all the animals off. We don't have to worry about that because our kills respawn, but other people won't understand that, so we should keep quiet about it. Along with all the other things we keep quiet about. Yeah, but this is a little different. People do hunt out of season. It's illegal, but it happens. So not only should we not talk about respawns because people would freak, we shouldn't talk about hunting out of season because people might tell the police. What about the gathering we do? Pretty much the same. Don't tell people exactly where we gather from in case someone checks with the landowner. So we are breaking laws, but the laws do not apply to us, but we cannot explain why that is true. Exactly. Yet there are people like Henderson, or whoever the man was at Henderson's block, who are understanding about breaking some laws. It will be important to know who those people are. It was my turn to work the counter that night. I found this easier than mopping because I was not being stared at when I was too busy to relate to the people. Working the counter, in fact, meant I was confronting them. I made myself smile and look into their faces. When they stared at my beret or looked away from me rather than ordering, I kept smiling and repeated, "What can I get for you?" The second time was usually enough. The one man did mumble something and leave without ordering. I do not know why I ran away that time. I am not the problem. I was born this way. I may be unusual in this world, but I am not the problem for being what I am. Husband's story is that I had myself changed to look like this, but even his story says how I am is how I want to be. Even without his story, I would never consider changing myself to look like others to make the others happy. I think people need to level in me. Is part of the reason you use really short phrases because they aren't human, so talk in a way you'd imagine aliens do? Huh. Yes and no. Are you familiar with the Jumanji movie with Dwayne Johnson as opposed to the Jumanji movie with Robin Williams? You know what it is? Haven't seen it. Okay, well, I say the guy went into a game world. He knew it was a game world because it bore a striking resemblance to the game he used to play, on Earth. She was born there. She didn't know it was the game world. It was all she knew. So she didn't know that everybody else in the world pretty much acted like NPCs. They would never really have anything new to say except in certain circumstances. They never approached her for conversation. They never showed a certain level of dynamism. I mean, they would talk, but they would just say the same things. And after spending a good, 20 some years at this, she figured that was the world that existed. That was how things were. It was like kind of like coming to New York and having nobody talk to you. You go to a coffee shop every day. The barista says the exact same things as she's handing you her coffee, your coffee, whatever. So she mostly grew up thinking that other people were sort of haulable furniture. And then comes along this guy. He's got dynamic conversation. He approaches her. He has new things to say every single moment. He makes her laugh. He's the most interesting person in the world for her. But she is developing conversational skills. She is utilitarian with her word use. People have said that she says perhaps a lot, that she doesn't break it up with maybe, that maybe I should, to make the writing more interesting. I can't. That's not the way she speaks. Perhaps works for her. She's not going to bother to learn a new word, especially when she's Googling stuff every day. So, yeah, short phrases, it gets the job done. Limited vocabulary, it gets the job done. It's not that she's dumb. She is, in fact, pretty damn smart. Learns things pretty quickly. She's just, this is what gets the job done. Definitely makes sense. It would be weird and not relevant for her to speak in long phrases from what you've read. But you're really liking it. Excellent. I'm getting my job done. It's funny. Uh, some people in writers groups that I show this stuff to, and they talk about grammatical errors, and no, they're not. Um, it's like what we used to say in programming. That's not a bug. It's a feature. Entry 43 by Steve. Ammo. Cough drops annoying, but necessary. A window for the shed was going to be a pain. If I didn't want to buy one or buy glass and make one, I'd need silex and natron for my existing recipe. Natron is effervescent water and rock salt. Effervescent water comes from the shroud, and rock salt and silex come from southern Thanalan, which in this world translated to another trip north of Tulsa, plus finally getting out to the panhandle. So it was a pleasant surprise to get to the pit and find a framed window leaning against the shed. I went into the bar to ask Em about it. Well, you talked about a window AC, but I didn't see a window. So when Duke said he was doing a home demolition over in Drumbright, I asked him to save you one. Paid off his tab. Oh, hell, man, you didn't have to do that. My shed, remember? I wondered if the shed was going to become the Wyatt Stone Soup Project. At least it meant I could once more put off going to the panhandle. Tsu'na seemed better the night before at the diner. I think it was a matter of facing her challenges head on. Of course, the difference between Eorzea monsters and Earth people is that the monsters always behave the same way. Just have to keep pounding on them until you learn the pattern. But the people in Wyatt have already changed their response to her, so she'll need to aim for a moving target. Yesterday she was content to stay home and work on recipes, so I took a break from the shed and got on the eastbound bus. Hit some pawn shops and thrift shops to see what there was so we might try crafting. Stopped at a salvage yard to look around, get an idea of what might work with the synthesis. Visited a sporting goods store because Amazon just doesn't deliver look and feel. Found myself in an army surplus store on the edge of Tulsa. I'd only been in once. I've only been in one once, years ago, out of curiosity. Now I was looking more out of practicality. I needn't have bothered. The stuff I saw there was more army-esque than useful, for people who want military trappings more than they want to go live in a bunker. Sorry, go live in a bunker. Either way, though they did have an ammo box for cheap that had probably never contained a shell, but it was metal and sturdy feeling and would probably make a good pattern. It perplexed Tsu'na some when I showed it to her, though. What is an ammo box? A box that holds ammunition for firearms. Keeps it dry, keeps things from hitting them so they don't go off, contains a little of the blast if they do. Ammunition for firearms. So it would hold an ethereal transformer? No, okay. Earth-made projectile weapons use bullets, which are combinations of stuff like fire sand and pieces of metal. The fire sand burns, that makes pressure behind the metal, and that makes the metal shoot forward at whatever you're aiming the gun at. Like an Imperial missile cannon. Yeah, but smaller. Handheld. Oh, then those things people wear on their belts are guns? Right. And they only carry so many bullets. When they run out, people have to put more in. And when they have no more to put in, then they can't use the gun. Tuna considered this. This does not sound practical. I would not want my gun to stop working because I did not bring enough of these bullets. Why not simply use a bow? Up the Mariners, have a good night. Thank you, you too. Earth-made bows work the same way. When people run out of arrows, they can't shoot. I do not understand. Run out of arrows? I hesitated. We were trading on paradigm here. Remember, this is Earth-made bows and has nothing to do with our Eorzeans. Yes? Earth-made quivers have a limited number of arrows. People can run out of arrows here. But we do not. We never have. She scowled at me a moment before switching to Bard. She peered over her shoulder at the arrows in the quiver. I have never run out of arrows. There is always another arrow. Right, I scrambled for an anchor. It's like our journals and how they always have more pages. I think the journals were more complicated. She drew an arrow and held it in her hand, studying it. Then she drew another and another and another. She fanned the 4 arrows in front of her. Are we perhaps crystallizing ether? That makes sense. And it sort of parallels our guns. I was relieved. It was something to believe I hadn't just killed an entire class for us. So drawing an arrow and shooting it is actually an act of forming ether into a projectile and flinging it. As she put the arrows away and shifted back to Earth normal, I walked over and slipped my arms around her. Have I told you you're fucking brilliant, my love? She nestled against me. You may have mentioned it. I do not mind hearing it again. She was quiet for a moment, then asked, Earth people ran out of ammunition? That's what I've observed. But we do not. That's what I've observed. So if we and Earth people are shooting at each other, we will eventually be doing all the shooting? I smiled. That's what I believe. That is useful. Yes, my love. She did good at the diner last night. I thought she'd try to keep her head down as she cleaned, but she didn't. When she got close to people while sweeping or mopping, she'd look up at them and smile. It took some time, but eventually they started smiling back. I think it's going to be okay. And if they ever start shooting, I guess we'll have enough arrows. As long as you don't get hit. Well, there is that. And that's what armor's for. Hello, Jerry. You just get here? Been lurking for a little bit. Well, I started with entry 38, so that was a bit of an arc. Was eating popcorn, so you couldn't use the keyboard. Was I entertaining enough for popcorn, or was something else entertaining you? Just needed to finish the halfback that was left. Gotcha. Okay. Tongue's already getting a little numb, but I think I'm good for two more entries. This next one might be a little long. Entry number 44 by Tsu'na. Identical. Research list. Intelligent design. Evolution. Random. I tried to stack the flashlights in inventory, but they would not stack. I did not understand why, since they were the same size, the same shape, and the same color. But they took two inventory slots regardless. Husband said it was because they were wear items like tools or armor. Excuse me. The bulbs age, the batteries run out of charge, and so on, just like our gear has to be repaired after we use it. So they're not identical things. Charge. Yeah, the batteries contain electric charge, which makes the bulb glow. When the charge is all used up, the flashlight doesn't work until you get new batteries or charge the old ones. So, like ammunition for the flashlight. Exactly. So many things run out of things. You said cars use fuel. Yeah. Why do people not make things that do not run out of things? They claim they're trying to, or at least make things with more charge, or things that use less charge. But if they did, people who sold charge would make less money. If you had a flashlight that lasted forever, you'd never have to buy another, or more batteries. So I cannot stack the flashlights because they are different, but I stored all those apples we bought in Stillwater, and they were all different. No, you stored a bushel basket full of different apples. If you stored both baskets, it would have taken two slots. I began to appreciate husband's kits. In Eorzea, he would sometimes make boxes that he would fill with different things, such as a complete set of paladin gear, which would be a paladin kit, or all the ingredients for a culinarian quest, which would be a cooking kit. We cannot see each other's inventory, but I sometimes imagined his as full of boxes. His thinking must have come from this world. He still made kits, like the camping kit, a large box for the tent, sleeping bags, water jugs, and so on. Perhaps that is why he is trying to make more ammo boxes out of steel to make more kits. I could store the flashlights in one. Were all things different in this world? We harvest fruits and grains and ore here, and they are all the same. The apples we harvested stacked in our inventory, even though we harvested them in this world. I set 5 of them on the kitchen counter, and they were all the same. I then went to Maze and bought 2 different looking apples, and they would not stack, yet I could make pies with both of them. Apples come from trees. I walked through some woods on the way back home and looked at trees. They were all different in some way. I later searched Wikipedia for apples and saw they come from flowers on the trees. Pictures I could find of apple flowers showed they might be all different. So not identical trees made not identical flowers that made not identical apples. Word for things being all different: disparate, uniqueness, dissimilar. Other words seem to talk about people. Word for everything being unique: uncommon, idiomatic, individual, alone. These did not feel what I was looking for. A related question got my attention. What's the word for making everything the same? Uniformity. The Garleans liked uniformity. They wanted everyone to be the same, with the same uniforms, the same weapons, the same ideas, serving under the same flag. They said they were trying to save us from chaos by imposing order, but that was people and politics and perhaps society. It would not make all apples the same, would it? Husband thinks we crystallize ether when we harvest. So perhaps all our harvested apples look the same because we have an idea of what an apple is, and we use that idea to make all our apples. But I can stack husband's apples with my own, which means we are using the same idea. So where did that idea come from? Word for making many of the same thing: standardize, regularize, duplicate. Duplicate: make an exact copy of, reproduce, replicate. But copy what? Duplicate what? Replicate what? Google was not answering my question, or I was not asking the right question. I could have discussed this with husband. He likes to theorize, but he does not like to say how things are. He wants to observe his test subject showing him how things are. We harvested fairy apples in Eorzea. The idea of a fairy apple was not new. I could buy them at the Bismarck, so husband and I both had that idea in the world before we harvested them. But if we had the idea of sunset wheat and moco grass and fairy apples in this world, yet we could not harvest them here, where did the ideas of prairie wheat and ogi grass come from? Google only comes up with businesses named ogi grass. Not ogi grass is the thing. I do not remember whether husband or I were the first to harvest in that area. Did he get the idea first and cause it to be what was harvested? Where do ideas come from? Ideas often originate from dialogues in which an individual hears about a challenge and recognizes a new path for solving it. It is therefore crucial to create a space in which challenges are discussed openly and without fear, stimulating new solutions. That did not answer the question I think I was asking, but it was interesting. It made me think of us making steel, how husband was trying to do it the Eorzean way in Earth, while I saw the Earth way and tried to do that the Eorzean way. We wanted steel, and we got steel. We found a steel solution. What challenge does oki grass solve? How can I openly discuss it with husband? If not husband, is there someone else I can openly discuss it with? There are often no people at the pit in the early afternoon. Sam looked up from wiping the bar when I came in. Hey there, your husband's out back. I climbed onto a stool. Thank you, I know. May I have a Coke? We agreed to work for cider, but Coke is much cheaper for him, so he is happy to give me Coke. He filled a glass and brought it to me. Letting him do all the work? For the moment, I have thinking to do. Everything okay? Yes, it is not a problem, it is just understanding. I sipped my drink. Where do ideas come from? Sam picked up a glass and started polishing it. He does it sometimes like an idle NPC action. What kind of ideas? I looked around. There was an empty beer bottle on the bar. Bottles. Where do bottles come from? Bottling plant? I think there's one in Kansas. And where do they get the idea of making bottles? Because they thought they'd make money? No, the idea of a bottle. Things come from ideas. Where did they get the idea of a bottle? Uh, Folks been making bottles for, I don't know, like thousands of years. But there must have been a time when there were no bottles. Someone made the first bottle. Where did that idea come from? I guess he wanted to hold water. I sighed. A new path for solving a challenge. Suppose so. Sam kept polishing the glass. It did not need more polishing, but perhaps his hands needed something to do. He looked a little confused. He was not really answering my questions, but he was trying to listen. What about the ideas for other things? Like apples. What challenge does an apple solve? That made him look more confused. Apples. They just kind of happen. They grow on trees and stuff. People pick them and eat them. But what about the idea of an apple? Where does that come from? You talking about intelligent design? I never believed in that crap. Then how did the first apple happen? I think you're talking about evolution. What is evolution? Uh, Random stuff happens till something works, and then it keeps on working. An apple works? How does an apple work? Sam was starting to look pained. It grows on the tree, it falls off the tree, it makes a new tree. New tree makes more apples? Another rinse repeat. Yeah. And once it works, apples are all the same? What do you mean? I brought out the bag of apples from May's store and placed two on the bar. These are both apples, but they are different. Sam glanced at the apples. I suppose. I then took two harvested apples from my inventory and placed them on the bar. These I harvested. They are identical. Sam smiled slightly and looked at my apples. His smile went away as he kept looking. He put down the glass and cloth and picked up the apples to look closely at them. He turned them around in his fingers, tilted them up, tilted them down, looked closely at the stems and bottoms. He went and got a small knife from a tray at the bar. He cut the apples through the middle and looked closely at the cut halves. After a moment he bit into one, chewed slowly and thoroughly, and swallowed. Then he looked at me. You picked these off of trees? From trees, yes. He looked down at the apples. He looked up at me. That's weird. He was not looking at the apples. He was looking at me. He was not looking puzzled or confused or upset. He was looking serious. I thought about some of the other things he had said before. Does that mean I should not be talking about it? Maybe. I could not openly discuss this challenge. I gathered May's apples back in the bag and got off the stool. Hey, look, Miss Tsu'na. I stopped and looked at him. He seemed to be struggling with something. You probably should be talking to your husband about this stuff, but if you can't or whatever, if you need to talk to someone, can't promise I got any answers for you. You even know what the hell you're talking about, but I can listen. Thank you, Sam. He was right. I need to talk to husband, and not about apples. Delicate balance. Having the cough drop, talking around the cough drop, dealing with the cough drop, not having the cough drop, drinking water, partly to wash down the cough drop. and not being thirsty. Or tongue numb, and articulate. Okay, final entry for tonight. Entry 45 by Steve. We need to talk. I was working on mounting the window in the shed in the afternoon when Tsu'na gave me a scare. Do you have the camping kit, husband? Yeah, do you want to go exploring tonight? We should put in time at the diner, I think, but I finished some venison pies. Perhaps we can have dinner out here with the mats and the lantern. That sounds good. Give me some time to finish this. She nodded and disappeared into the pit for a while. Around the time I got the window stable, she returned with a couple cider bottles. I went into the shed and pulled out the camping kit. We dug out the mats and the lantern and made ourselves a picnic on the shed floor. The pie was decent. The meat was a little chewy, but so is antelope. Not bad. I might have preferred more onion, but this should be good for the diner crowd. I used an entire onion in the recipe. The little yellow ones or the big white ones? Hmm. You are right. For 3 servings, I should use a bigger one. So, this is nice, but what made you think of it? We need to talk. Except in certain dungeons, it is impossible to die in Eorzea from falling damage. You might get taken down to minimal health, but you won't die, which sometimes makes jumping off cliffs the fastest way to get to places. Still, there's that sickening feeling of falling even when playing the game on a PC, which is what I felt right then. Sorry. We need to talk. In this world, whenever there's a romance story and someone says we need to talk, it means there's a problem with the relationship. There is a problem with our relationship. We need to talk. Is this something I did? It is something you do not do. Is this about the sex? That is part of it, yes. I scrambled for something to say. I love you. She blinked at me. And I love you. What does that have to do with this? You said our relationship was in trouble. I thought you were talking about breaking up. She stared at me. I never said anything about that. Why would we break up? Well, then what's this about? We do not talk about things we should. I do not think we are working together correctly. We are not communicating. We need to talk. Men are from Mars. Women are from Venus. Tsu'na is from Eorzea. Oh, why did you think I was talking about breaking up? Well, like I said, that's what people say in romance stories when there's a problem with the relationship. I do not know this world's romance stories. Should I? For cultural awareness, maybe. So we're okay? So long as we talk. Right, talk. About what? She sipped at her cider as she gathered her thoughts. I think I need to know how this world works. Anything in particular? Do you think Sam is a scholar? I doubt it. Yet he told me about evolution. If he knows about it, does that mean everyone else here does? Pretty much, yeah. There's strongly religious people who don't believe in it, but they still know what it is. Uh, why are you talking about evolution with Sam? I wanted to know where apples come from and why they are all different. Okay, but why Sam? Because you do not like to tell me things. We need to talk. I sighed. Gotcha. Do you know why I do that? I made you explain it once. And that's not working for you? She picked up her cider bottle and contemplating it while she chose her words. I showed Sam some apples I had harvested. He said they were weird because they were all the same. I did not know that until he told me. I might not have known before I tried to sell them or give them away. I do not know enough about this world to know whether what I do is weird. I feel this is bad. Everything you do is wonderful, and I don't care if it's weird. But yeah, we need to worry about appearances. Because Earth people do not crystallize ether, among other things. I sipped my own cider as I crafted phrasing. What I worry about is telling you that things are done in a certain way here, and you then don't think they can be done some other way. We don't know what all we can do in this world, and I don't want to limit possibilities through doubt. You do not think I can keep both worlds in my head? I suspect you can. You think about things the Eorzean way with no doubts and no hesitation. I can't help but doubt just because we're here. I guess I'm trying to keep you pure. Her brow furrowed. Pure? Pure what? Not a great word, but I mean, free from doubt. Free from any tendency to second guess anything you do naturally in Eorzea. That happens every time I am in the bathroom. It is a constant reminder that this is not my world or even my body. Yeah, and I wish you didn't have that reminder. I honestly wish you didn't need a bathroom, that your Eorzean thinking was enough to make it unnecessary. It seems like it wasn't. But if I told you you needed it before you felt the need, we'd never know if you then needed it because I told you. You cannot get me in a box, husband. If you do not tell me things, others may. Or Google. If I am to see this world and understand it, you not talking to me will not help. I sighed. You're right, my love. I'm sorry. We just need to remember that there is more than one way of doing things. There's the Eorzean way, and there's the Earth way, and there might be more. If there are more, I want to find out, and that means not limiting the way we think. More ways to do things? Yeah, a cook might look at a recipe for this pie and wonder what kitchen utensils to use. You look at it and wonder what ether shards you'll need. An industrialist might wonder what kind of machine to build to make them. And maybe there's some other way to make a pie that's different from all those that we might not think of because we think like a cook or a crafter or an industrialist. We are making new recipes, but we're still making recipes. What if we could make things without recipes or without ether or utensils or machines? Exactly. She considered this. How can I do something I do not know how to do? By doing something other than what you know how to do. And you think keeping me ignorant will make me think of these new things? I kind of hoped, yeah. I am your test subject again. No, my love, this is research. You are my partner in a double-blind research study. At least I am your partner now. So what sorts of things do you want me to do? You want a list? She pursed her lips in thought. That would not work, would it? If you want me to act without doubt, would I not know everything on your list is something you have doubts about? I blinked. Blah, blah, fucking brilliant, blah. I love you, Tim. I started to understand all this would be harder than I thought. Okay, how about this? We started to do list or a wish list or a project list, things we think should be done or we'd like to be done. It'll give us direction and help us understand each other's priorities, and I can put stuff on it that I don't know how we do mixed with stuff I know we can figure out. That makes sense? I think so. But I think you already have a long list already, do you not? In my head, sure. I'll start a doc. You can add to it. And will you tell me about this world if I ask? Yes, my love. Where would you like to start? How do apples work? We spent the rest of the time until the diner shift talking about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees. After we'd packed up, we stood, slipped our arms around each other, and simply held each other for a long time. It's scary that so much tension can build up that we don't even know about until we feel it draining out. And that is it for the evening. Feedback is, of course, welcome.